Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. This is it's the evening for me and for you, depending on where you're streaming from. It might be morning, afternoon, whatever. But so nice to meet you. So I'm going to be talking on a subject that is very useful to founders all across the globe, and it's one that I am particularly passionate about, and it is empathetic leadership. All right, and we're going to be looking at how leading by empathy is useful for building strong and successful teams. Okay. So, just a bit of my background for those who don't know me. My name is Glory, and I'm currently a senior ops associate at Techstars, where I get the opportunity to work with diverse startups all across the globe, different countries, different verticals, and it's pretty much an interesting experience. I also function as a voluntary head coordinator for ShiningStar Foundation, and it's really based on empowering African leaders, especially when it comes to developing soft skills like empathy. Okay, so straight to the business of today. I'm going to start off by talking about this quote from a leader who I admire a lot. That's Satya Nadella. And I believe most of us are probably familiar with Satya Nadella. And, he once said, empathy is not a soft skill, it is the hardest skill you will ever learn. And the reason why that is so true is because a lot of times we're focused on building our technical expertise. We want to be the best at the job, but the things that we relegate, the things we consider little, the things we think are soft skills, are sometimes the determining factors of whether every other technical skill we've acquired would be able to get us to our desired goal. And before I go ahead, I want you to just take a moment and think about the best job you ever had, or the best company you ever worked at, right? Or if it's for those of us who are entrepreneurs, I just want think about someone who inspires you a whole lot. And I want you to imagine, right? I want you to picture and just tell yourself, think about it. What were the skills about this person that made them exceptional to you? If it's a job, think about what were the things about your boss, or your current boss, that made you consider that job the best job you ever had. I'll give us like 10 seconds. Just do a mental math. You can write it down somewhere. Now, for those of us who were quick and just did a run through in our heads, one of the first things you will realize is probably most of the reasons why you considered that job your best job, or considered that person an amazing mentor to you, comes back and is somehow tied back to the skill that is empathy. Why do we say so? Oh, I love the working environment. What is it you love about the working environment? Is it how it makes you feel? Is it how at home you feel? Is it how you can be your best version of yourself? Most of the things that you will focus on and think about will end up finding a way, one way or the other. They come back to empathy. And empathetic leaders are able to take organizations to the highest peak of their potential. Okay, we're starting off with Satya Nadella because he is one of the most credited leaders when it comes to empathetic leadership. When he took over Microsoft as the CEO, Microsoft was basically a corporate organization. It was, so how the corporate system is. And he basically came in and shook things up a little bit and decided to, let's be more empathetic, let's take our customers more into consideration, empathetic even with our colleagues and everything. I've listened to him talk so many times about the subject, and the results are clear. It's amazing how far he was able to grow Microsoft under his tenure, all the amazing things they were able to achieve with Azure and cloud computing. But all of that, Satya Nadella credits to empathetic leadership. So, what is empathy? Not to talk too much. Personally, I define empathy as not just the ability to feel, because this is something I find a lot of people kind of make a mistake with. We think empathy is some form of weakness that is just all about emotion and emotion and emotion. Not really. We think empathy throws away logical thinking and it's just about being soft. Not really. You see, the thing about empathy is genuine empathy is a combination of two things. It's a combination of both the ability to understand and then the ability to feel. You see, that fusion of not just understanding, logic, but also feeling, emotion is what gives birth to empathy. And some of you might disagree. I'll give you a quick example. It is almost impossible to feel something that you don't understand. It is very difficult to feel what you do not understand, and that's why people tell good stories. When I'm telling you my story, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to explain it to you. I'm trying to explain so you understand who I am, why I do the things I do, and in explaining to you, in helping you understand me, helping you understand my context and my reality, you begin to feel. And that feeling helps you connect to me, connect to my story. So it is very important that we understand empathy is two things. First of all, the ability to understand, which is very much in the logical place. And then not just understand, but feel. When you understand without feeling, that's when you come off as being tough, insensitive. But when you understand and you feel, that's when empathy is born. Now, this is important for us to point out, because many times you would have to make difficult decisions that don't necessarily come out as being too nice, right? But still, it's empathy at play. All right. So now that we know what empathy is, we're going to talk about startup leadership. And I know many of us are familiar with this, but whenever I see a leader or startup leader, you can basically break down most of what they do to two things. So every leader's primary activity, day in, day out, would focus on these major two things, and they are tasks and people. So you're focused on getting things done, trying to get people to work towards a particular goal by giving out task instructions. And then the second aspect of what you have to do is manage people. So you are managing tasks, and then you are managing the people who help to ensure that those tasks are carried out and actioned out. And so what happens when we fuse startup leadership, managing people, managing tasks with empathy? It gives us like the holistic picture of what empathetic leadership is. And this is what I define it as. I believe it's a management style, a leadership style that prioritizes understanding and sharing the feelings of your team members while you are guiding them towards a common goal. Now, that goal can be different things depending on who you are or what you're planning to achieve, but the real core is you're not just guiding people towards the goal, you're doing it in such a way where you are prioritizing understanding the people that you are guiding, and you are prioritizing understanding the feelings of the people that you are guiding. Why is this important, particularly for startups? First of all, just like we talked about the story of Satya Nadella, the truth is, Microsoft is a big company. It's a massive company, and yet empathy is important to them. So why do you think it's not important to a startup? In fact, more than anything else in the world, when you're starting out, You probably don't have access to a billion resources. You probably don't have access to a billion, whether it's human capital, whether it's cash, finance. There's so much you're still trying to acquire. And what you want to do is ensure that you are efficiently managing the limited resources you have as a startup. And one of the biggest resources you would ever have is people. And if you do not know how to be an empathetic leader, you are going to lose so many valuable resources before you even have the opportunity to, scale or start out. I know a lot of friends who started businesses, organizations, and the only reason why I contributed my time, my energy, many times not even taking a dime from them, was just because of the amazing kind of relationship we developed, and the way they managed those relationships with emotional intelligence. What am I trying to say? I'm saying people are assets. And when you're starting out as a startup, you will find a lot of times that you require those assets to function. There's people who are going to come on your team at times when you don't have all the money to pay, but because they believe in the vision, they believe in the goal, they believe in where we are going, right? They're going to be there and they're going to give their all to see this vision come to life. So you're guiding these people towards a common goal. But if you don't know how to guide them effectively, you can't get the best out of them and out of their potential. Okay, so I love this particular image. I got it from Stephen Bartlett, and it's so beautiful because it gives kind of like a description of what the startup environment is like as far as team culture is concerned. This applies to most companies really, but I'm using it specifically in this illustration for the startup environment. So when many people want to join, a company, or at face value, all you see is, oh, where is the location? Oh, who is employed? Who is in charge? Who's the CEO? Where is the office? What are the employee benefits? And sometimes, as a leader of an organization, you can be tempted to think, I just have to, focus on what's the benefits written in the contract, the location, office, and all of that. But most of the things that determine if you are going to have a successful team environment, most of the things that determine if you're going to have an amazing team culture lie below the iceberg. You know how an iceberg is. You see that little tip, and then there's so much more beneath that we're not paying attention to. So things like people are looking out for the mission of the company. They're looking out for what's the flexibility. They're looking for what are the opportunities for me to grow. They're looking what are the core values, and all of these little things underneath kind of build up to trust. So when people trust in the vision that you have, they trust in the mission, they trust in the safety that you are building, right? In the safety of your culture. It becomes easier for them to give their best and give their all. But most of the time, every one of these little things that we don't see on the surface tie into the ability of people to trust that this is a place where they can grow, this is a place where they can do their best, this is a safe place where they can share their ideas, it's accepted, this is a place where they can be heard. Also love this particular illustration from the Harvard Business School review, and it talks about the three ingredients that build into trust. We talked about trust earlier, and now these are the three ingredients that build into trust. One of them is, like we established before, our logic is important. The rationality of things. When I join a company, I want to believe that you know what you're doing. So a lot of times you have human resources who join you. They join because, yeah, you had a very great mission. You spelt it out correctly. Yeah, we believe he knows what he's doing. But then there's also, I don't just want to believe you know what you're doing. I also want to believe you care about me and you care about my success, and that by being here, my path to success is very likely. I want to know that you're authentic and you're real, and all of this builds into trust. I showed us this just to remind us that empathy plays a very, very huge role in trust, and therefore it's one that cannot be ignored. So why empathetic leadership, right? First of all, just like we shared before, it's so important for enhanced team morale and engagement. Teams where I know I can trust that you care about me. I know that I can trust that you care about my professional growth and you care about me as a person. Are teams that would likely have more engaged employees, people who are willing to go the extra mile without being pushed, without being, put on a schedule. Would be those who feel the most connected to the purpose, the mission, and also to their leader. It's like we also mentioned earlier, decreased employee turnover is a very, very big benefit of empathetic leadership. So many studies have found that people are less likely to, leave companies where they feel appreciated, they feel welcome. It's also good because it helps with employee well-being. People should not come to work for you and then their mental health is in the mud, right? Because I mean, our work is one of the places where you spend the larger percentage of your day, your time, 8 hours most of the day with your colleagues. For some people, that's more than they would ever get to spend even with their life partners. So when I come to work, I want it to be a place where I can feel, peace of mind and not mental turmoil. It improves collaboration when you when you're working with a leader who is empathetic, because the team develops this winning as a team spirit, which also contributes to the results that the entire organization has. Of course, by inference, that fuels productivity, and it also increases creativity and innovation. Why does this increase creativity and innovation? There's a kind of freedom you have, right? Freedom of thinking, freedom of expression, when you know you are working with a leader that is a safe place. You're working with a leader where failing at a task doesn't mean you're going to be doomed. You're working with someone who understands. It unlocks the creativity of your team in ways that you may never have envisioned. So now we know all or some of the major reasons why empathetic leadership is important, especially for startups. The question becomes, how do I become an empathetic leader myself? How do I do it? There's a lot of ways, right? But one of the first ones I've found over time, like from working with different startups and working on several organizations myself, is the ability to care for your team beyond the scope of the job. And this is such a big one. It sounds so simple, but it's big. And personally, I was guilty of this a lot of times, where I led teams, and because by nature I was quite introverted, right? I would show up and I would be so active when we had something to do. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. And I would line all the tasks and tell people, get that done. But once the task was over, like, there was no connection whatsoever, no follow up on, questions that went outside of the scope of the job, like, how are you, how is your family, hey, you told me about your kid last time, and just following up. And I realized what that created was, it limited the ability to bond. And when people see themselves as just a tool to be used by you, they don't give more than you get from a tool who's paid to be used by you, right? But I realized I couldn't use my personality as an excuse, because if you're going to be a leader, well, here's the hard truth: you're called to be able to do a lot more. And you just have to learn to do a lot more. It's not about neglecting your personality, it's about learning the things that would help you and your organization grow. For some of us, it's because of our background, where we're coming from. We're not used to all that personal stuff. but you have to learn. So I learned to do things as simple as just grabbing a coffee with a colleague, with a teammate, and just getting to know more about them outside of the tasks we had to do. And it's amazing what that does. Showing genuine concern when they have issues that, even though there are things that are outside the scope of the work, remembering names and dates. Oh my goodness, this is such a big one. You don't know the impact it has when you meet someone the second time, the third time, and you say, hey, and you call them by name. I had a hack I started using for this. So when I would meet people, I was very terrible with names. So when I would meet people, I would quickly scribble their name on my notepad and scribble the context under which I met the individual. If I connected with them on LinkedIn, I would take a screenshot of the picture on LinkedIn just to remind myself, right? So that the next time I meet such a person, I'm like, oh, yeah. And you can tie it back to a particular event. Nevertheless, really, really, it makes such a difference when you care for your team beyond the scope of your job. Another big one is the ability to listen actively. Many times we listen to respond, not necessarily to understand what people are saying to us. And people can tell. People can tell. Sometimes, like when you're talking with an individual, I'm learning these days, count, and ask yourself, who's doing the most of the talking in this conversation? Am I the one running my mouth for 40 seconds and you're talking for only 30 seconds? You want to intentionally flip the dynamic and get people to talk more when they're with you, especially your teammates, than you just doing all the talking and pouring all the information on them. And honestly, watch your biases, because we all have biases. Every single one of us. Watch your biases, personal, cultural, religious, and be very careful when you go into conversations with individuals so you don't judge them before you even have the opportunity to get to know them. Ask open ended questions that give people the opportunity to express themselves more to you. Your body language is such a big deal, because a lot of times we don't even realize we're doing it. You walk into a room and you automatically have a frown on your face. What it does is everyone already considers you not to be approachable, and you're wondering, why won't anybody talk to me? Why is everyone afraid of me as a leader? But you don't realize you walk into the room and you automatically already have like this frown, this growl on your face that is very discouraging. And then be patient. Honestly, be patient, because yeah, you will meet people who will test your patience. But empathy, the ability to be patient in itself, is a massive form of empathy. Yeah, and then you want to empower your team, right? This is one that is very difficult for a lot of leaders. Where I had to learn, because I would usually just take things up on myself, and I'll feel like, oh, nobody can do it as well as I would. That's one of the biggest ways to kill your team. So you want to learn to empower your team, delegate responsibilities. And this is why when you're choosing your team, pay attention to those who you choose. Don't just choose for choosing sake, because when you choose the people you want to do this goal and vision with, you need to be able to let go and let them do what you've called them to do, so that they can grow. All right. And create a safe space for receiving constructive feedback. As a leader, don't be an authoritarian who feels no one can talk to me, I'm always right. It's such a wrong approach to have. All right. Be intentional about creating policies and activities that support the wellness of your team. I love Asana's culture of no meeting Wednesdays, that kind of like just gives teammates back the opportunity to focus on their work. It's lovely. Shopify, that went first remote when the pandemic was beginning to shift, just to kind of like support its employees. Tony Shea of Zappos, who kind of created this system where there was no hierarchy, and just helping people feel like, listen, everyone on the team is equal. I mean, it's different things for different companies, but just find a way to get creative about creating policies and activities that help your employees feel like their wellness and their mental health is prioritized. Can be offsites, whatever you choose, but just do something, get creative. All right. And then recognition and appreciation. I believe it goes without a saying how important this is, because it helps everyone feels good when the work they do is recognized by the team. Support your team, be committed to their personal development. Listen, it's not just about you and your goals. It's about also helping these people find fulfillment in what you're doing. And when the burden of that is it stays true to you as a leader, you would raise loyal and supportive team members who can go to war at the battle for you. All right, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty on the job when you need to. Sometimes you need to physically assist an employee, teach them something. Sometimes you need to be patient with helping them grow. Do that, right? It will shock you how much more committed people can be when they know they have your full support. Remember, it's your duty to make their job easier, not complicated. Do not overcomplicate things for the people who, because I don't know if you've ever worked with those kind of people. Like, it's like they just wake up with ideas every day that weren't thought of, right? And you're just thinking, wow, that just made my job 20 times more difficult. And it feels like the leader didn't even ask questions, or say, hey, what do you think about this? And they just pour this on you, and all of a sudden your job is more difficult. So as a leader, put yourself in the shoes of the people you lead. All right, think from their perspective, not just from yours. Ask questions, receive their feedback. Don't just throw decisions down the food chain. And I think we can talk about all these things. I mean, if I were to listen to you, you would probably tell me your own tips as well for being empathetic leaders. These are the ones I've learned to live by that work for me for now. But I think the biggest one I've learned is the ability to give yourself grace. Because honestly, even though we've done all of this and we've gone, done all this walking through, many times you're still going to mess up. You're going to mess up. There will be times where you thought you were the most free-minded, most open-minded, and yet you will do things that have you questioning yourself, like, did I just do that? Did I just make that mistake? Right? So you will mess up. Get ready for it. But when you do mess up, be willing to admit that you don't know it all. Don't be the person who tries to pretend, or, you know, force, have this the God complex. Be willing to admit you don't know it all. Let your team know you're intentional about doing your best. You're trying your best. You're open to feedback and you're open to growing. And don't just let them know you're intentional about doing your best. Stay intentional about doing your best. I think that is all from me, and I hope this is useful to someone. Thank you very much.